podcasts. I really like serial killer podcasts. I know I'm crazy. I also own a grumpy French bulldog. He is literally the worst when it comes to his personality because he's so grumpy and so sassy, but I love him so much. And I'm also a huge caffeine junkie. I love Monster, coffee, 3D, Celsius, Adrenaline, Bang, and Red Bull kind of. But yes, I love all of those. So if you all ever have any questions on any caffeine drink or anything like that, I've probably tried it. So yes. Now to our next panelist, it's gonna be Leo.
Hi guys, I'm a computer science major. I'm a junior, and I was a Google Step intern this past summer. One of my favorite things to do, well, when the pandemic wasn't going on, was to work out. I listen to podcasts, just like comedy stuff. I'm not really into. Well, actually, I was into like a podcast a while ago, but yeah. And I also love to drink cold brew. That's probably one of my favorite things to do now after like the internship. I like being caffeinated now. So yeah, those are my details about me.
Carmina.
Hello, I'm Carmina. I'm studying computer engineering. I'm doing an internship or co-op with IBM as a web design intern. And on the side, I'm also a learner advocate for egghead.io. And I love matcha. Like, I love matcha more than coffee. So, and I love video games.
That's awesome. Genta?
Hey guys, my name is Genta. I'm a computer science undergrad, and I was a software engineer intern slash technology analyst at PIMCO. On my free time, I like enjoying to work out with Leo before the pandemic. I learned how to cook slash I am learning. So if you know any like good websites to learn how to cook, yeah, please leave it in the chat box because I don't want to spend any more money on like DoorDash and like Uber Eats. So that'll be very helpful. And besides that, I like watching YouTube for like endless hours. So like I'm just clicking away on the suggestions for like hours on end, and like I end up sleeping at 4 a.m., which is really bad, especially because I'm not really like into caffeine except Red Bull. But yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. And Stephanie.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Lopez. I'm a computer engineering student. I was a developer education intern at GitHub this past summer, and I've interned at a bunch of other places. I'm a contributing technical writer at Twilio, and I have some likes: podcasts, music, and coffee. And dislikes: I don't like anything with scales, frogs, lizards, snakes, anything like that. That's me.
Okay, awesome. And now for the first question, I mean, anybody can go first. If nobody wants to volunteer, then I can go. But the question is, tell us about a day in the life as an intern. So who would like to go first? I can go first if y'all want. So for PagerDuty, just to kick it off, for PagerDuty, as a developer advocate intern, so the day in the life, well, since we're in the pandemic, it's all virtual. So the first thing I do is we have a stand-up meeting every single morning, and we talk about what we did the day before and what we're going to accomplish today. So that's a meeting that we have almost every single day. And we also, we also have a group chat that we chat about what we're doing throughout the day. So that's also something that we do. So something that I did when I first got in there, since I manage the marketplace at my company, I open up the app review status, and I check if there's any new companies that submitted their integration, and I work on that, and that's basically what I do. And I can't really say too much because there's some stuff that I can't really say, but yeah, that's basically what I do. And I also work on the company's API. So and I also have a lot of partner like business calls. So it's a pretty cool thing. So who wants to go next?
I'll go next. A day in life for me as a Google Step intern was, so I would wake up. We didn't really have like a set like time frame. You just had like to do like your 8 hours a day. So you could either like wake up like really late, like 10. Sometimes I did that, or like at 12. But of course, you're gonna have to make those hours up. But yeah, I would wake up, probably like have like check my calendar first, first and foremost, to ensure like to see if I had any meetings, and if I did, to like make sure I didn't miss them, and if there was any events. After that, I had to check my email, see if I got any replies from coworkers or got any messages like that. And then after that, because I'm a step intern, we're like in a pod per se. It's like a team with two other interns, and we had a stand-up meeting every day. We each discussed like what we were doing and what we were trying to work on, and if we were stuck in something, like we would ask each other questions. And that after that, like there's certain days that you have to talk to like your host and your co-host, and those are typically your managers in other companies, or what they're called. And you just have meetings about them, about like anything that's bothering you, any questions about what you're currently doing, or any questions about like software engineering in general. So yeah, that's what it looks like a typical day in the Google Step intern.
Awesome.
I could go next. So as a software engineer intern at PIMCO, you could usually wake up around like 10 because everyone's on Pacific time. Well, my team was in Pacific time. It's like a global company, so there's an office in Austin, Newport Beach, California, New York, and like all of Europe usually, and like a few in Asia. But you could like, depending on your team and where they're located, you can usually wake up around 10 to like 12-ish. Um, but yeah, every day or every other day, we usually had a stand-up meeting to like discuss with your team and like what you've been working on, catch up. Um, Very brief. It's like probably 15 minutes, 30 minutes at max. And when I didn't have those stand-ups, I would have a meeting with my manager to discuss about like software design and like what my project, because it's like usually PIMCO hires around 20 to 30 interns. So, and there's about like 30 teams that you could be placed on. So usually you're by yourself. So you have like a one-on-one meeting with your manager to talk about like what software you can like, or your design could be. After that, you're like on your own for a while. And if you hit any roadblocks, so like if you have any questions about your design, then you can always just Slack them. We usually use Slack for communication, because usually email takes too long and you don't know if it's formal or not. But yeah, usually you end your day at around like 6 p.m. And I didn't work any overtime, so that was great. So yeah, I really enjoyed the company culture at PIMCO for sure.
It's awesome. And now who wants to go, Stephanie or Carmina?
I can go. So my day usually starts around 8 a.m. I like to get a head start and see and work before my other coworkers are, so I know like what's happening, where I need to be, and what I need to work on for the day. So my day usually starts off with reading some emails or whatever Slacks from that I've gathered async. After that, I'll usually get into some meetings for a while. As a developer education intern, it's more like a PM role. And so no day is the same. So one day I'll be giving a workshop at a conference, and then the other day I'll be writing on documentation. So it's really different depending on the day or week. But usually I'll spend the morning in meetings and catching up on any type of emails I need to get back to. And then the afternoon, I'll spend a lunch time or an hour with someone from the VP team or any other person from GitHub who wants to talk about what they do. And so like one day would be the founder of Bootstrap, and then the next day will be the team from NPM. So I'll spend lunch with whoever is like the guest speaker of the day. And then the afternoon is like crunch time where I do all of my work. And then I'll usually end the day with like a Zen hour. And so me and another intern will hang out and just like either drink a beer or drink a coffee and just talk about things that are not related to work. And that's the day for me.
Awesome. Carmina, how was your day?
Okay, I can't beat that. Working at GitHub sounds so cool. I'm jealous. My team is based in Atlanta, but I still work 8 to 5. We have stand-up meeting every day. You have to tell them what you're gonna do for that day, and every week I have one-on-one with my manager. But it's pretty much just checking your calendar if you have meetings, and if you don't have meeting, work. But that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Oop, okay, so for the next question is, what was the interviewing process like for your internship? So yeah, anybody can take it away.
I can start off. Oh, don't want to interrupt you. So I'm pretty sure most of us signed NDAs on what the interviewing process was like, so I can't get into like the nitty gritty and what type of questions there were and what to prepare for. But there were a set of like 6 to 7 interviews, and each one was based on something different. So some were based on like company values and how well I knew those, and the team at GitHub trying to understand what my product decisions were like, and then also my approaches to solving problems, whether they were technical or other business related matters. So the interviewing process for me was pretty straightforward. I always had an update and I always knew where I was and where I stood. And I knew that when I applied to that position, I basically didn't need to apply anywhere else because like that was the one I wanted, and I usually get what I want. So that was me.
Awesome. Okay.
For me, I had like 2 to 3 interviews, and all of them were technical. But because it is a freshman and a sophomore internship, there's not like that many expectations for you to know like data structures and algorithms. Um, so yeah, you could typically get by with like CS1 or CS2. There's no pressure in that. And when I applied, it took like about like 2 weeks to hear back, and after that, my recruiter kept me aware of the process. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. How my interview process went.
Cool, cool. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So at PIMCO, there's about 3, I guess, stages. I guess first you have to apply, so 4. But after you apply, you usually get a hacker rank or a code signal, which is like an online assessment you have to take to see where you're at, see how many test cases you passed. For my understanding, I can't really discuss the questions, of course, but it wasn't too difficult. It was pretty straightforward. Like Leo said, you didn't really need to know like any like crazy graph theory or like dynamic programming stuff. So like I encourage freshmen and sophomores to apply. I was a sophomore myself when I applied, taking CS3 at that time. And after you pass the online assessment, you get a higher view. I think higher views are pretty common in the financial technology side, where you have to like, I guess, do some behavioral questions to a camera, and you're not really talking to anyone except yourself. And after you pass that, I think you get another one actually. And then after you pass that, you get a phone interview for like a face-to-face online coding session. And yeah, after that, you get an offer.
Okay, I got it. For me, I just applied through IBM careers page, and I just got a call one day, and they wanted to, set up a meeting. So it was just like 2 to 3 interviews. For my role, it's just web design, so it's mostly like, design stuff. And it's just they just ask about like my interests, myself, and my skills, and that's it.
Awesome. Okay, so for my interview process, it's actually very similar to all of y'all's. So my interview process was more, I guess, behavioral and kind of technical. It was more on the behavioral side since it wasn't like on a developer advocate role. And they're huge, and my company is super huge on like the culture and values and stuff like that. So they wanted to make sure that I was like the right fit. I think it was like 3 interviews, and then the technical, I say quotation marks, interview was more like asking the understanding of like what an API is or how does it work, etc. Like stuff like that. So it was more like just understanding how technology works, because that's basically what I do in my role. I explain to other developers how certain things work, how certain APIs or how to use stuff. So that's basically what they wanted me to do, just get a general, like just to make sure that I have a general understanding of on what certain things are. So, but my other interviews for software engineering were definitely more like write a piece of code, and those are super hard. But yeah, definitely this one was more behavioral and technical kind of, but more explaining what certain things are. And I think everybody went, right? Yeah, cool. Okay, so for the third question is, what kind of projects did you work on during your internship? Like what did you do? Of course, if you can't discuss a certain thing, that's fine, but just a general idea.
I can go first because I can't really discuss a lot. All I can say is I was in the trading department, so it's like a lot of the money where it comes from, like during, I guess like a financial company comes, like all their money comes from trading. So can't really discuss what I did, but I did work on a framework called Spring Boot in Java, and it was more like a backend role. And so I did a lot of backend, connecting with like the cloud and doing a lot of things related to what a backend engineer does. So I know a lot of other people in like my intern class did multiple different things. Like they did front end and data science and stuff like that. So it just depends on your team. But yeah, that's all I can say pretty much. I used Java and Spring Boot.
I have to add that I love Spring Boot. It's super freaking cool. Do you mind explaining what that is? Some people are asking what that is.
Oh yeah, so Spring Boot is a backend framework for Java. So it has like a bunch of libraries and different things you can use as a tool to, I guess, help build your, I guess, make it easier for you to develop. There's a lot of things in Spring Boot that you can't really do in any other backend frameworks, like dependency injection is one of them. That's really big. I don't know if you can do it in other languages, but what I learned in my internship was one of the biggest things with the dependency injection. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a backend framework.
Awesome. Who wants to go next for this question?
Okay, I'll go. Well, for me, it's just make website for the support for like IBM Curator support. Actually, just got live this week. Well, one of them, if you want to see. This is one of them. I just update their Curator 101 support page. And another project I worked on was some mentorship app for IBM. I got chosen to work on it, but it's like, it's not within my work, but it's like volunteering stuff. So that's it.
Great. I can go next for mine. So for what I did, I worked, like I said, I worked a lot on the marketplace that we have. So I was in charge of, like when new integrations came in, I was reviewing them and publishing them, and of course answering any technical questions that the other companies would have. So let's say they didn't understand how to use a certain API, or they were using the wrong API, I would actually point that out to them and guide them how to guide them in the right direction. And then at the end, I would publish them. Another project that I worked on was on, again, like one of our APIs. Since most of the documentation is very technical, I was in charge of making like a, how do you say, like a sample app, or like a sample API call. Yeah, sample API call. So that non-technical developers or non-technical people and other companies could understand what we do. And that really helped. It was more like a project for the sales department. So I was super excited to do that because I mean, I like sales and I like coding. So that was a super great combination for me. So yeah, that's one of the projects that I worked on. And currently I'm working on maintaining like the Terraform library for PagerDuty. So that's pretty fun. Well, kind of. Go is not that fun. And who wants to go next?
I could go next. Yeah. So for my case, because we were doing remote, I was part of the Google Cloud team, and I did web development. And we did a full stack web app, which was for an open source tool that Google has, and we developed it in JavaScript and Golang because the CLI, the command line interface tool that we use, uh, was built in Golang, so it was easier to develop the backend with Golang, right? And so yeah, I didn't really have much experience before, like in um, front-end development, but thanks to the internship, I learned like JavaScript and React, which is what we primarily use for the front end. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole project.
Cool. Guess I'm last. So I worked on a lot of different projects this summer. My experience is in dev advocacy, and I've done some software engineering internships. And so this one was kind of a blend of all my interests. So it had some software engineering, some product, some dev advocate, and then some other things that I've never done, like instructional design. And so I'm going to post a link here. So I worked on the GitHub education team, and there's a ton of different programs for students and teachers so that you can learn technologies that are relevant in the industry. And so there's GitHub Campus Experts, there's the Teacher Toolbox, there's Campus Advisors, there's GitHub Classroom, there's a lot of different things. And so I worked on the GitHub Campus Advisors program, which is a program for teachers to become GitHub superfans, which is really exciting. The thing is that there was a lot of, because GitHub is coming out with so many new features like GitHub Actions and GitHub Stars, there's so many different things that are happening at GitHub, and the lack of content being updated very, very quickly is pretty important, because as we're moving to like an online learning environment, it's important that teachers have like the appropriate tools so that they don't really have to focus on grading and looking at people's code and other things, and instead they can focus their time on teaching. And so my project, my main one, was to focus on creating a better program that teachers can learn GitHub and then also teach with GitHub. And so part of that was creating new curriculum for them to learn. And then on a different week, I would teach workshops at CSTA, which is the Computer Science Teachers Association conference. And then also conducting user interviews. So understanding like what pain points they have, and then looking at them use the product themselves and seeing what their pain points are. And then from those sessions, identifying what solutions we need to implement. And so at the end of that, there was a lot of different things that rolled out. So there was a completely new content, completely new curriculum. And it's pretty wild to see a bunch of teachers copy like the stuff that you've written and like actually have an impact in their lives. And so this project wasn't specifically technically based, because this was more project management, product management type focused. And so there are a bunch of different elements composed into this project, which is pretty fun.
Great, that's awesome. I think everybody went, so let me go ahead on the next one. And just in case, if y'all have like questions, I know I mentioned in the beginning, but I think a few more people joined. This is the Slido link. If y'all have any additional questions or more specific questions to a certain candidate here, definitely ask here. You can just join using this code. So yeah. Okay, question 4. So what was the best part of your internship? What was your favorite thing about it?
I can go because I had so many things that are my favorite. It's like, it's really hard to not love GitHub. For me, that was like a company that, and like a product that I'd rhapsodized for so long. And so like, I love GitHub. I love the community that the open source community has. And I love being able to use it as like an asset in my own studies. And then like the different features that GitHub offers, like actions, and then GitHub education is like a whole different set of things that you can use. And so for me, working with people that equally loved GitHub and like the different products we worked on, and then like 75% of the world's code is on there, and like working on a tool that is like a hub for all of those things is really exciting. And then also there's like so many really, really smart and talented people there. And so it's just like the best part of the entire internship was the people, like hands down.
Awesome. GitHub sounds amazing.
I could go next. For me, I think the people are also the best part of the internship in the sense that because Google is such a big company, you might think like the like you can't ask anything without like the fear of like sounding dumb. But that's not really the case. Everybody's very accepting and welcoming for questions. And they actually encourage you a lot to ask questions, and often like you're encouraged to ask questions a lot because like everybody knows like you don't know everything. There's like only so much that you know, right? So they're very encouraging, and they don't put you down or anything for not knowing, and they just want you to get better and learn. And I think that's probably like one of the best things in that internship, that everybody was so welcoming.
Awesome. I can go.
I could.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go for it. No, no, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so my favorite part of my internship was just like the people. Like aside from the like what I did, like I had a lot of fun doing like my projects and stuff. But I love the people that work at PagerDuty. Everybody's just so accepting and so like welcoming and so easy to talk to. Like they even have this networking thing called Donut. Like it's on Slack. It's implemented on Slack, and they match you up with somebody every week, and you get to have like a 30-minute conversation with them. It's like super fun. I got to meet so many people like from from around the country, and also from Canada and London and Australia. I think those are the offices that they have. So I got to meet so many people and just talk about the different things, get like suggestions to travel, or I don't know, just stuff like that. Everybody was just so like helpful as well. Like even when I had like the dumbest question, no question is dumb, just saying. But like even when I thought, man, like I really don't get anything, like I would ask, and they would always be super helpful. They would send me a Zoom link like, hey, let's have a meeting and I'll help you out right now, or I'm in a meeting, but let's meet after at this time. Everybody was super helpful, so welcoming. I never felt like I was like, I never felt dumb. So even though like I didn't understand something, I never felt dumb because everybody was super helpful in understanding that. I don't know some of this technology. So yeah, that was like my favorite part about this internship.
Okay, so I'll go next. I think my favorite part about my internship was every 2 weeks I get my paycheck. No, I'm just kidding. My favorite part was probably like everyone said, it's mostly about like who you're working with. So when you're looking for internships and like companies, I guess, I think you should look for like a culture fit, which is a really big deal, I think, in my opinion. And I'm glad that like I fit in the culture at PIMCO. So usually, I guess a lot of people, like they already said, like the other panelists, but they're really welcoming when you ask questions. Like if your manager doesn't know, or if your teammates don't know, then like they'll immediately like go, I guess, look for someone to help you do something that you need to do for your job. So it was just very, I guess, helpful, the community itself. And I guess one of my favorite parts, I had something similar to Catalina, where you can like link up with like mentors. So they had this thing called Mentor City, where uh, I guess like senior engineers can post themselves on this Mentor City thing, and you can, I guess, create meetings with them and meet other people that's worked with like Dell and Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. So I met with like a lot of people that worked with different companies and got a lot of different insights on how like PIMCO compares to other financial technology companies like Two Sigma, Jane Street, like I said, Chase, stuff like that. So it was really interesting where you can just talk to anyone at any time. Like I met up with like multiple VPs of like finance and recruiting and stuff like that. So it was just a very helpful community and welcoming community in general.
Awesome.
Okay, so best part, well, yes, they're like super helpful, super understanding. If you don't know anything, you can just ask. So yeah, you never feel stupid. Um, I love my other interns too. They're like super friendly. But the best part would be, one of the best part would be the hackathon. We did like there's like a hackathon just for like interns. So we got to make a project, and it's but it's like 3-day hackathon, and we got still paid and stuff. And yes, you get to connect. There's like a lot of volunteering opportunities, and I think it's important to, do some volunteering in your company. I think it shows that you care. Um, that yeah, you can also similar with Catalina and Genta. We also had that mentorship, and it really helps a lot. Like if you have a mentor, I think try to find one if you can. But that's it.
Great. And I think that was the last question. Oh no, actually, never mind. So what advice, I guess I can also actually tie it to one of the questions that everybody keeps asking. What advice do you have for students looking for an internship? And also, I know that they're asking this question a lot. Where is it? How did you also like prep for the technical round? I know that a lot of people are asking that question. So like advice for just looking for an internship and then prepping for an interview. I guess 2 questions in one.
I can go first. So for, I guess, me, last year, I applied to almost like 250 companies. And so I got reached out by like 4 companies out of the 250. I just went on LinkedIn and just click apply like almost every day. I would say it's like a numbers game. So the more you apply, like the more chances of you getting like a online assessment or like a phone interview and stuff like that. And so if you're a freshman or sophomore, there's also like Step Intern, which is like a freshman and sophomore program, Facebook University. I think Facebook is coming next week to UTRGV, so I would highly suggest on you going to that. There's also 2 Sigma freshman internships, stuff like that. So I would definitely suggest you looking for freshman and sophomore internships if you are a freshman or sophomore, and if you're a junior, I would just say it's mostly a numbers game until you get an interview. In terms of preparing for the interview itself, there's a lot of great full use for sources, I guess. I actually have them on my desk. This is one of them, Elements of Programming in Python. There's also Cracking the Code interview. It's like the holy Bible of interview prep. There's also like multiple YouTubers. I think one of my favorite one is Back to Back Sui. They have like 30-minute videos on LeetCode questions that like go really into detail about like time complexity, space complexity, and just the question in general. So I would suggest you look into that, and it's almost like practice every day usually. I'm hopefully I'm not scaring anyone, but it's just a matter of practice and how much dedication you're willing to put in. But yeah, it's a lot of practice and LeetCode. And I would say before you start LeetCoding, I would say like you would want to get a general idea on like arrays, strings, data structures in general. So before you get started on like actually doing LeetCode questions, I would suggest you preparing for LeetCode questions. And because if you're not really prepared to do LeetCode questions, you can literally just stare at a screen for 3 hours, which was like my mistake my freshman and sophomore year, where it's just like trying to do LeetCode questions just like without any knowledge. So that's my advice.
I could second. So yeah, similar to Genta, I used like elementary, the book for Python, the Cracking the Code interview with Python, because I felt like that was better for me. But yeah, there's like good resources like LeetCode is one of them, Cracking the Code interview, and there's many things like that. There's YouTubers, especially for what I did, because it was a freshman and sophomore internship. I didn't really have to review data structures. The reason being is I was taking CS2 at the time. So we're like essentially learning at the same time, right? So I didn't have to go back on that, but I did have to make sure like I understood like strings, arrays, and things like that. And like Enta said, like don't be afraid of a rejection. Like a lot of people, like many of us, probably all of us, for sure have applied like to hundreds of places and gotten like so many rejections. Like for example, for me, I got like a rejection letter like in summer from a company that I didn't remember applying to. And it's kind of crazy. You just need to apply. Don't be afraid of rejection. Everybody gets rejected at least once by a company. But yeah, I think you guys should just apply. Don't be afraid. Have a resume, of course, a one-page resume. That's what's very important, and a cover letter if the company needs it. And yeah, that's what I would recommend for you guys to do.
Okay, I want to go next. First advice, network. Network a lot. It helps. So let's say you're a freshman, be involved in like student clubs because they might be useful. You know, when you need one, you can like ask for referrals if you're applying. So one advice, network, ask for referrals, and make projects if you can. Um, yeah, just be enthusiastic when they're interviewing you and show project. But number one, network. It helps a lot. You can. That's it. That's it. But yeah, network. Facts.
Yes, totally agree with that. I mean, I guess I can go next. I don't really have much advice on the technical part because my interview wasn't too technical, but the way any like advice for looking for the internships, I definitely experienced a lot of rejections. I literally got the internship very, very, very last minute, like at the end of hiring season. So I applied to so many internships, like literally everything. I applied to every position to I didn't even care. I'm just like, I just want to work at a tech company just so I can at least get my foot in the door. Like, I don't even care if it's a software engineer, if it's a PM, it's a developer advocate. I just want something. So thankfully, I got one, right? And I ended up loving this position. So that's great. But yeah, so definitely, like, don't be afraid of rejection. And honestly, on those behavioral interviews, they're very important because it really shows, like, your personality. It shows who you are as a person, if you're motivated to learn, if you care about like what you're gonna do at the company and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend you being super enthusiastic, like Carmina said, because that will definitely help you. Like, because usually I think the first part of the interviews, I mean, usually they are like behavioral. I mean, in my experience, they were all behavioral, like the first ones. So that will definitely help you. I mean, going to the next round, right? Just being enthusiastic and passionate on what you do, and showing, and also like Stephanie always gave me this advice, like have a great elevator pitch for yourself and always elevate like who you are. Like, there's a lot of things that you might not realize about yourself that you're super talented and great at, and you might not mention it because you don't think it's relevant. And definitely always mention like what you love doing, like what you've accomplished, even if it seems small to them, it might be something super good, super great. So yes, that's what I recommend.
I've interned a couple of times now. This is maybe like my 6th or 7th one. And I think a mistake that I made in the beginning was I was applying everywhere. And like this, and for this advice will be like really contradictory to what everyone else has said. But the mistake I made in the beginning was like applying everywhere and nobody wanted me. And so like at the end of the day, like at the very end of hiring season, I just took the whatever offer. And then that ended up being like a really shitty experience because I didn't care about the company. The company clearly didn't care about who their products were affecting. And it was a miserable time. And then after that, I had some other great internships. So I like got my momentum back up. But I'd say one really big piece of advice is to find like 4 or 5 companies that you really, really want to work at, whether that's short-term or long-term, and know their products, know their mission, know their values. So if you were looking at Amazon, understand like the Amazon leadership principles, understand AWS, understand Echo, understand everything that they do. And when you talk to recruiters or if you network on LinkedIn, use that background knowledge tied into whatever projects you have to make a pitch on why your experience is relevant to whatever products they have. That's really, really eye-catching to a recruiter or to even like the PM or the engineering manager, whoever it is that's working on that product, because it shows that you've done the work and you're prepared to back up whatever challenges they have with the experience you have. The second thing I'll recommend is to learn to love rejection. If you do go in the route of applying to like 300 internships, and like you're going to have to, it just happens. Like even though you think you're great, There are people that are better than you, and that sucks, but it's true. Learn to love it. It's not personal. It's just the game. And as soon as you start looking at rejection as a lesson, then it'll be a much better experience for you. And it's really, really easy to get into like a state of despondency, and you can't give up. You just have to keep applying. You have to continue to prove to companies why you're a good asset. And then lastly, this is like I know I'm like going over time, but if you really, really want to master the technical interview, find the repo on GitHub of like the raw language. And so for me, I interview with Python, and look at the repo on GitHub and see everything, all the code that's written in C. If you understand the language at its most bare concept, you'll do great.
Yes, and I think everybody everybody answered, right? Yeah. And I think, okay. I keep thinking that it's the last one. So what advice do you have for making the most out of your internship? Like I guess what made you successful in this role and stuff like that.
I'll go first. So the interviewing process, the recruiting process is really long. And in that process, you're pitching yourself. You're bragging about yourself. You're saying, I did this project, I did this, I was the president of whatever. That's great. The internship process is different. You have to completely be vulnerable, and you have to be okay with not knowing everything. You have to ask questions, and you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, it means you're learning. If you have a question about anything, like I had a question about a design on one of the GitHub pages, and then they're like, okay, cool, talk to Mark. And I was like, okay, who's Mark? Mark is the founder of Bootstrap. What the fuck? So get comfortable asking questions. And like, if you feel uncomfortable taking on a certain task, if you feel like something is too large for you, that's a good thing. That means that you're getting out of your comfort zone. Also, forgot what I was gonna say. So that's it for me.
Great advice.
I can go next. Following up what Stephanie said, yeah, like don't be afraid to ask questions. I know for me, like imposter syndrome was a really big deal for me. So like I didn't like think I deserved the role, or I know like multiple people are just better coders or just like better developers than me. But don't like be afraid to ask questions. Like I know like imposter syndrome has like affected a lot of people in the industry. So if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's just like, oh, do I deserve this role? Do I like even belong here? And like if you end up with an internship, like you definitely deserve it. Like you put in the effort and you put in the work for it. So like don't like put yourself down on it. And I would just say always try to reiterate what your manager says. So like if he says something like that you don't understand, or that you're like iffy about, like, oh, like is he talking about this or this, like always like say it back to him, like, oh, like do you mean this, and like try to say it back to him in like a different format. And if he says yes, like you're good to go, you know. And like if he doesn't say yes, then like you just wait, it's not wasted, you saved a lot of time. Instead of like going out to work and like working on the wrong thing, you like save a lot of time with just like, oh, like with a simple question like, oh, is this what you wanted? And so I guess be aware of imposter syndrome, but like once you're aware that like hey, like do I deserve this role, ask yourself, like if you ever ask yourself that and you're in your shoes, like yes, you definitely deserve it. So yeah, that's like the only advice I can give you.
Yes, +1 to that. I guess I could go next. So like to make most out of your internship, like I totally agree with Stephanie and Genta said. Super great advice. But something that I also recommend, I know that Carmina said it earlier, is definitely network. Like if you already have your foot in the door, like make the most out of it and try to like meet more people there. Like everybody that you meet, add them on LinkedIn, even though it might seem a little bit stalkerish, just add them, because they'll add you. They'll add you too. Like I emailed someone one time and I literally had like a LinkedIn request like the next day. So I definitely suggest you adding them. They might even ask you questions or ask you, hey, I'm working at this company. Would you want to come over here with us? Or, hey, let's set up a meeting, let's talk or whatever. And even that small networking, even if it's not an interview or you're not like, I don't know, they're not referring you anywhere yet, that small talk could probably later on when you are searching for a job, or let's say they're working somewhere where you really want to work, you'll have some, like, you'll be able to contact someone, say, hey, like, is there any open positions? Can you refer me? Can you, whatever. So I definitely do suggest you networking. Like, once you already have an internship, I feel like that is a super great opportunity to get to learn more about the industry and just become more familiar with just different technologies as well. So also, like, ask a lot of questions, even if your mentor is literally explaining everything to you and you don't understand any single little thing that he's saying, he or her is saying. Definitely, like, always ask because you don't want to be completely lost, because your internship will progress and tasks will become a little bit more difficult. So definitely always ask questions so you can learn. And if you're interested in something, like, and that's not part of your role, definitely ask your mentor or manager and be like, hey, I'm really interested in what this person is doing. Can I shadow them for a day? Can I get more of an insight of what they're doing? Just so you can, like, just learn different technology stacks and just just network. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, I can go next. So I completely agree with what everybody else has been saying, right? You need to be aware of imposter syndrome and things like that, but also, like, you need to set clear goals for yourself. For example, like, because we all did like a work from home internship, we all had to have a sense of have a goal for the end of the week to ensure that you're making progress, right? And it's something that's very important because you also want to impress, like, your managers, right? Because you want to make sure you get that return offer. And I also agree completely. Like, you need to go to workshops. For example, Google had a lot of workshops that you could attend to where you can meet, like, you could have coffee chats with, like, other engineers, or there was a workshop to meet with everybody in the intern class. So you need to also network and make sure you get to know other people, because, like, sometimes, like, those people could also refer you to other companies, right? And it's just, like, very helpful in general to get to know more people, to learn about their experience, what they know, what they don't know. And that's how you could probably even get into the field that you like. And yeah, I think that's what would make a successful internship.
That's awesome. Great advice. Has everybody gone? I think. Yes.
Okay, I can pass. Yeah, it's just like the same, like just network and
Are you
stuff.
sure? You can.
Yes,
Go. Okay.
I'm good.
So this is a part where, I mean, anybody can go. Not every person has to answer, because I know some questions are going to be personalized and specific. But I'll definitely I'll count to 5 before I switch to the next question. So everybody that wants to go can go. So these are questions from the crowd. Let me do the first one that comes out. Oh, my mouse, hold on. Okay. So somebody anonymous put, I'm good at programming. My grades are good. I'm very passionate about programming. However, I haven't got a good internship so far. What do you recommend? Who wants to take over the question?
I have a question for the question. Define good. And if you don't have, like, if you just want to stay anonymous, that's fine. If you're questioning whether your experience, whatever that is, if it's in tech or not, is valuable, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at value. I mean, like, look at working in customer service, for example. Like Starbucks, or working at Starbucks, or working at, like, HEB or Sprint, anything like that. Those are really interesting skills that not a lot of people in the tech industry have. Working with customers, understanding, like, really high pressure settings, things like that, all of those things are very valuable. And if you have an internship that you think you didn't maybe have, like, a really large takeaway project from, there are different things. Even if that was, like, a learning experience, there's a lot of value in that. And if you want to maximize, like, your portfolio or your paper, Presence, I'd recommend looking at or building projects with whatever it is that you learned from your internship. If you learn Spring Boot, then make a microservice app. If you learn React, then try learning React Native, and then add those things to your resume. There's value in everything. It's just maybe in a different project or in a different setting. And you should still be proud of whatever it is that you did in your internship. You were selected for a reason. Somebody saw value in you, and you should also see the value in yourself too.
Yes. Anybody has any additional advice to this question? To Anonymous?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sorry. So this person said, I'm good at programming. My grades are good. I'm very passionate about programming. However, I haven't gotten a good internship so far. What do you recommend?
So I guess it depends. So I'm assuming you've gotten an internship before, because you said the word like had a good internship. But I guess it just depends on what companies you want to work for. I know Stephanie gave a really great advice on applying or like looking for internships. Like she said, like you should look at top 5 companies you want to work for and like be very selective and learn their company culture and look at their like tech stack. But I feel like if you've gotten an internship before, it opens like a lot of doors for you. So like I'm pretty sure like people will reach out to you, or like if not, like I'm pretty sure like companies will I guess give you more online assessments or give you phone interviews because you have that internship. So just because you didn't have like a great first internship, don't feel down, I guess. The next company you're gonna get, you're like very more I guess you're more looked out than a lot of people, because not a lot of people do have internships. So it opens a lot of doors for you. So just keep applying, and if you want to be very selective of what company you want to work for, be very selective and just try to learn their technology.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anybody wants to add anything else to that? We'll count to 5. 1.
I'll add one last thing. So something that you shouldn't be afraid of is that if you like, once you identified what 4 to 5 companies you're interested in, or maybe you don't have a company, maybe you just really want to work in fintech or something very like specific, reach out to people on LinkedIn, PMs, engineers, designers, and say, hey, I'm from South Texas and I'm interested in this position at this company. What do you recommend for me to reach a place like you? And generally when you reach out to people on LinkedIn, they'll like never deny a 10 to 15 minute opportunity, as long as you're polite and just show a lot of interest in what the person is and their role and what they do. That those people are usually willing to speak to you. But just also make sure that you're not talking to people explicitly for referral. Don't come off like that. Don't say, hey, I want to work at PayPal, give me a referral. Just like have a conversation with them first and try to be like their friend. Try to build a relationship, even not a friend, like try to be a mentor mentee. And sometimes that conversation doesn't have to be like, can you be my mentor? Because that's like awkward question to ask. Like as long as you're asking questions and they're giving you answers, that's a mentor to you.
Yes, I totally agree with Stephanie's saying. Okay, I think that was it for that question. Now for the next one this one is a very good question, and that's something that I also had before getting an internship. And I would remember I would always ask Stephanie this question when I was like trying to get one. So it says, I'm an aspiring web developer, software developer. Many entry-level jobs or internships, many entry-level jobs or internships require prior experience. But how do you get experience without having a job prior? That's a huge one. So definitely, who wants to take over?
Yeah, so I can talk about that one. So something that was mentioned before by Stephanie was like making side projects. So since you're interested in web dev, you can start small, right? By learning like HTML, and then going forward to going to CSS, and then making your own website. And that already is like experience enough. And you can also, if you you can just work on making your own first website, and then maybe make it a portfolio, right, where you have your other projects. Just making a project already would give you experience so that you could put in your resume, which would already put you forward into what you want to do. So yeah, that would be my advice towards that question.
Great. Yes. Who wants to add more to that?
I could add to it. So as like a freshman and sophomore, I guess like that was like one of my problems too, is like what the hell, like all these LinkedIn like requirements are like you need 3 years of HTML experience, 5 years of like this and all this. And I'm like, dang, like I'm just a freshman, you know, like I don't know where to start. So what Leo said was like, yeah, like make side projects, but there's also other ways of like standing out. So when I was a freshman, like my first semester I took Cal 1, and like I did pretty decent. I got like a 99, and like eventually like the professor reached out to me and he was like, hey, do you want to be a TA or do you want to be like a learning assistant? And I was like, yeah, sure, like of course. And so there's like multiple ways of gaining experience, quote unquote. Like it doesn't have to be like technology per se, but like just opening up like windows at your own school or like locally is like really great too. So like after my Cal 1 job, I like talked to Dr. Tamai and I was like, hey, I'm passionate about like teaching other people. So like, hey, can I be a TA for like CS1 or CS2? And like the following semester I became a TA for CS2. Or actually last semester I became a TA for CS2. And like that counts as like experience, you know? And another thing is like, I know Leo interned his freshman year at like a McAllen company. I'm not too sure, but he can talk about that. But like you could definitely look out for like local companies in the like RGV. I know some companies are like looking for like software developers and software engineers. I know like the title doesn't say it, but you're technically doing like you're touching software and you're coding. So that's another way of gaining experience. So like just because like you're not getting these like Google like FANG companies like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google your first or second year, like don't put yourself down. Like I know like I was kicking myself in the feet because like I didn't get like Facebook or Google, but what I realized is like experience is experience, and like it's about like the long term instead of like the short term. Like just because you don't have it now doesn't mean you can't get it later, you know. And like the more experience you get, like the more knowledge you're gonna get. So, and maybe you don't even like want thing, you know, like maybe you have like a horrible experience with like Facebook. Like I saw a video like about a week ago about how like terrible Facebook was. And I mean, I'm not saying they are, right, but people have different perspectives. So just be aware that like you don't have to start out big. You could always start up small and build yourself up. And yeah, that's the advice I can give you.
Awesome. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add to this question?
Just one thing to add, the minimum requirements on a job listing are just like a suggestion. Data says that 60%, women will only apply if they meet 100% of the listing requirements, and then men will apply if they only meet 60%. I would encourage you to think like men, or even if you meet 50% of the requirements, like apply. Internships are about learning. They're not about knowing everything. When you apply for full-time positions, then you want that experience, then you want that prep. But if it's an internship, then you want to apply if you only meet like 1 or 2 job requirements. It's okay if you know JavaScript, but not like React or React Native or anything else. Like if you meet at least 2 things and you're willing to learn more and demonstrate that in the interview, then you'll be okay.
Yes, definitely. Okay, I think that's it for this question. If anybody has anything else to add. Okay. So I'm just gonna see the question that they put in the chat because I guess it kind of ties into this one just a little, and just so it doesn't get drowned out in the chat. It's where's it?
Sorry, I'm the one who presented the question. Sorry if I'm not really supposed to be speaking right now. I just wanted to kind of clarify it because I feel like it was kind of hard to like phrase it in text. But yeah, so I just wanted to sort of Okay, I get the idea that side projects are probably the best way to go when it comes to experience when you have no prior experience for those jobs who are like, oh, we want some experience, but you don't really have any. But I didn't know how to really phrase it in text, but I don't really know where to start when it comes to those side projects, right? I'm sort of like new and like I've got the basics down of a language and I have like understanding of how to like data structures and algorithms, but I don't know how to bridge that gap between the book knowledge of like a language or like something and making it into a project. So where do you like really decide like how to start with projects? What's like the first thing I guess you should really like try and do with like a language or something, and how far to take those projects is basically what I mean to say, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So what I would say is like whatever you're interested in. I know like that's like pretty like well vague suggestion, but for example, if you're interested in web development, there's a lot of free courses, especially there's a link in GitHub Education gives like packs for you to learn web development, app development, things like that. There's also like if you want to you could just also follow YouTube tutorials. There's a lot of them where they like make clones of GitHub, make clones of Amazon and things like that, where you can already make a side project and learn a little bit about like React or Angular or any backend framework like that. That could be a great start in my opinion, and that would be my advice to that question. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I'll
Okay.
go for it. Okay. So like I guess before you want to start your project, I guess like first like I know it sounds really gimmicky, but you want to like start small. Like you don't want to like build the next Facebook or build the next Instagram, because obviously you don't have like when you're barely starting, you don't have like the knowledge to like just start coding and getting on the grind and like building an application by yourself. So I would say start very small, like be very gimmicky, like just make a tic-tac-toe app or like make something very small. And a lot of like I guess like a misconception is that you don't have to finish the project. Like almost like half the projects I had on my first resume, I didn't finish. Like I was like, dang, like I'm gonna use React and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna use all this technology, but I never really got started on it. Like I knew what I was gonna do and I like knew how to use it, but I was just like, I don't have time. Like obviously people have school and like school comes first usually. So like or like homework comes first. So um like you don't have to finish the project. Like if you have the idea down and like if like usually like in my interview for PIMCO they asked me like, oh, like we saw this project on your resume, like how did you like what like usually they ask very like vague questions or like very approachable questions. Like they ask like, oh, like what was your biggest I guess challenge when you were creating this app? And I was like, I haven't even started on it, but I was like, my biggest challenge was like X and X, and like just be prepared to answer like those questions. But I would say like yeah, just start small if you do want to get started. And like if you don't have time and you can't build the app, just put it on your resume either way. Like you don't have to get started on it. Like obviously you do want to get started on it, but like you don't have to fully finish it off to be it on your resume.
Echoing. Oh, Kat, do you want to go first or should I go?
You can go. It's fine.
Okay. I have two tips for this. So one is when I'm stuck in a rut and I want some inspiration for projects to build, I go to Dribble, and Dribble is like a social networking site for designers, and they have really beautiful, intricate designs. And I'm not a great designer, but I am like a pretty decent developer. And so I'll go on Dribble and I'll see what design is most interesting to me, and then I'll try to replicate it and then add the functionality. That way you can see that, or you can have the experience of like bringing a design to a prototype, and you can make something that works. If you're not into that and you want to take another route, open source is super, super great to get some projects going or to get some experience with collaborating with others and products that are like existing in real time that people have other products that run on. And so to get an open source, there's a lot of different ways you can contribute, but the easiest one is to improve documentation. Doc errors happen all the time. There's typos, there's punctuality, there's things that are missing all the time. And so if you are really passionate about Python, look at some different Python libraries like PyTorch or NumPy or SciPy, and look at those repos and check if they're open source, and then open a pull request and find typos in the documentation. There's tons of them, and the maintainers will really, really love you if you do that.
Yeah, so like adding on to like what everybody said, I totally agree with all those ways to start. Another thing that's definitely mentioned that I was gonna say is about the open source. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like that's the easiest way to start, because usually in companies you don't go in like building the whole company, right? You go in starting off of people's code and adding onto it, or adding a small feature to something, whatever, just stuff like that. So I really like open source because it's already code that's there, and you get to I feel like you get multiple experiences from that. Like you get to learn how to understand other people's code, so you get to learn how to read code, how to understand it, how it works. You get to learn the structure of things, like how like how the folders are formatted and stuff like that. Another thing that I really like that I'm currently doing is learning how to use APIs, right? Like how to use new APIs, for example, like APIs, if you don't know what it is, it's basically like a tool, like it's already code that exists, and you can implement it in your code and your website and your app that you're trying to do. Like, for example, let's say you're trying to, I don't know, implement a time feature on there. You can just get an API that has a clock or whatever and just put it on your code. It's kind of like that. So I feel like that's another good way to start a project. For example, you can get familiar with an API. It could be even the company that you want to work for is API. So I mean, maybe that might add a little boost to that. And you can definitely make API calls from there. So you can tell when you're interviewing, you can be like, hey, I know how to make API calls. Like I understand how to build an API, just stuff like that. Just like, it doesn't have to be like a whole project. Like Genta said, it doesn't have to be like, I built Facebook like all over again. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be something basic, but that gives you an understanding of how things like work, how that you understand how to use different technologies, and that you know how to adapt to things. So I definitely recommend that. Let's say you want to work, I don't know, at Stripe, you can look at their API and build something off of their API. Maybe when you apply, they can ask you, hey, how did you use us, blah blah blah, and you can elaborate on that. So honestly, it's yeah, like open source or any stuff like that. Like if you have a lot of trouble starting from scratch, because I do, like I can't, like if I start something from scratch, I just won't ever like finish it or get close to it. I definitely recommend you doing open source or like doing API calls and stuff like that.
Thank you so much, guys. That's been really insightful. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, so I think this one, okay, so are you still interning this semester, and how do you organize your time?
I use calendar blocking. If you haven't, I've tried so many times. I've tried like so many ways on how to manage my time. I use like bullet journal, planner. The only thing that worked for me is calendar blocking. If you don't know about it, you should like watch a YouTube about it, because you can like, you know, tell how many time you have left during the day.
Definitely. Yeah, calendar block, honestly, like I can't live without my calendar. Like if you're not on my calendar, then we're not doing anything, because I feel like calendars are super important. Like it helps organize me and everybody else. Or if somebody wants to meet with me, if somebody needs to talk to me or something like that, like via Zoom, or I don't know, I have to go do something. If it's on my calendar, I know like, hey, I need to be back by this time because I have another meeting right after, et cetera, et cetera. Anyone else have any tips?
I recently started my internship at the School of Medicine at UTRGV. I guess one advice would be, I know like we're all like guilty for this, but like using like our phones during Zoom meetings, or like I guess having your phone in like eyesight or like plain vision is just horrible. Like you should, like if you have like a different room for like studying, like keep it in your bedroom or like keep it out of like your vision, because like once you want to like once you get started working, or once you start, I guess, like getting done homework or like doing something, you don't want to get out of that like mental, I guess, or like the hardest part about like working or like studying is like getting to work and studying. So like if that makes any sense. So like it takes me like 30 minutes to actually like start grinding like my work or like doing homework. So I would say like just try to get in the habit of like trying not to use your phone or like have your phone in like plain eye view. I saw like a YouTube video, like I know like I'm like obsessed with YouTube, so I'm just like always like looking at random videos, but like there was a video about a med school student like studying in 4 hour blocks, and he was like, how do I study in 4 hour blocks? He was like, just try to like set like small goals for yourself, and like being like if you're like grabbing a cup of coffee or like a refill of a coffee, like ask yourself, do I deserve this? Did I work enough to like grab another cup, you know? So like try to like set these small term goals, and try not to have like, I know a famous like technique to study is like the Pomodoro. It's where you study for 25 minutes or a certain time frame, and then use your phone for 5 minutes or like take a break for 5 minutes. I've tried this like multiple times, but it's never worked out because I just get like blocked off on like what I'm doing, and like it's so hard for me to get back into like working. So I would just try to say like try to keep your phone out of your vision, and try to be motivated with like small term goals, like hey, can I get water, or can I grab a snack, or do I deserve this, and stuff like that. It's like all mental, I would say.
Great. Okay, this is gonna be the last question. I just saw it and I thought it was such a good question. Where is it? Okay, so this is for all of us, and it says, what is the most difficult challenge you encountered starting your internship, both internally and externally? Like, I guess, like, what was our most difficult part during our internship, and both like internal and external? Who wants to go?
For me, like my hardest challenge was, since I'm in like the financial technology side, I had to like learn like business terms, I would say. Um, and like I got questioned earlier, like how much did you learn about the stock market at PIMCO? I learned a little bit, and like you could definitely more learn a lot if you really wanted to. I just didn't have like the interest to at that moment. But like if you really wanted to, like you can definitely like learn about like more business related stuff if you do work in like financial technology. But for me, like the hardest part was like learning the technology that I needed to start my project. So like for me, I used Spring Boot, but I'd never worked with Spring Boot before. So I was just like, yo, like what the hell? And like previous to using Spring Boot, I hated Java. Like I like spit on Java if I can. Like it was the most disgusting thing I ever seen, because like I come from like, it's, although it's like very similar to C++, I just hated Java because like I was so used to C++. But like mostly it's like learning the technology that you're going to use. And for me, it was also like the business terms I needed to know, because I was just like, what the hell is like a hedge fund, and what the hell is like all these like financial terms? And I'm like, okay, whatever. But like eventually you'll get used to it, and like they won't roast you for like not knowing it, because obviously like you're a software engineer or you're a computer science student, and they're like, hey, do you know anything about like the stock market? And you're obviously not going to know unless like you're on like Robinhood or something like that. So um yeah, that was like my hardest challenge for me.
That's awesome. My hardest challenge was I think it was the same thing. Like understanding technologies was so different because I've never done React, I've never done JavaScript, I've never learned Gatsby. I don't know. It was just a whole technology stack that I didn't understand. It was just so difficult, and especially because I had to build something from scratch that wasn't there. That was even more hard because I was the only one working on this project. So there was like literally nobody else that was working on it. So it was so difficult for me to understand even how to use it. And the API calls were so weird with JavaScript. I just didn't understand it. I mean, now I do, but I didn't in the beginning. So I feel like that was the most challenging part of the internship, just understanding a new technology stack that I've never worked on. But definitely, I feel like this also ties in with like how to start a project. Like learning a whole new technology stack gives you so much experience because you get to learn a lot of new things and you get a whole new level of understanding on how to start like on another technology stack and stuff like that. So I feel like yeah, that was a huge one for me. Another one that was like super like difficult and I still am struggling with it is talking to business partners, because since I interact a lot with like other companies, like it's just so hard and so awkward for me to interact with like business people, and I'm the one who has to answer the questions. Like they ask something and I know that I have to answer, or if I don't know the answer I have to be like, oh, I don't know, let me go back and email you about that. So I feel like that's still a struggle of mine. I get nervous and stuff like that, but me getting more and more familiar with the technology is definitely helping me on that.
Yeah, for me, in my case, internally, it was dealing with like imposter syndrome, um, because of course, like Google's such a big company. Like, there's like people that I've worked and like done CS since they were like in middle school, and then done so many projects. And I personally like thought like, do I even belong here? Like Kenta had mentioned, like it is like there's something that's like you will have to deal with eventually, and something that I had to like uh come to terms with during the internship. And something external was also learning like the stack, because I didn't there was a lot of internal tools that I had to learn. There was a lot of terms that I didn't know because I had never worked with the tools that I had worked with, and I had like I mentioned, I didn't know anything about web development at the time, so it was very like complicated. And also trying to learn web development, while also trying to learn like the internal tools. Um, that was probably like the biggest hardship that I had during the experience during the internship.
Awesome. Anybody else want to go?
Similarly to Leo, I think one of the biggest things I struggle with the most is realizing how amazing I am, truly. Like, I know it sounds awful, but oh my God, my dog. Yeah, there's a ton of really talented people. And when you're working with people who go to like Stanford and have been coding since like the womb, even though I have like a lot of experience, I'm like, okay, shit, maybe I'm not really that great. And then I look at myself and like my resume and what I do, I'm like, hey, I am pretty amazing. I did that. So if you have the same feeling, just I think something that really helps that though is having like really, really good friends. And so like that's another piece of advice, is that you want to have some type of support group, because when you get like those rejections, those failures, those rough days, you want to have a really good support group. And whether that's like your family or your friends or like your chosen family, having people that like or that bring you like some type of solace is really nice. And Kat and Sonia did that for me.
Yes, definitely. Join our Discord and we'll be your hype people. So anybody else want to answer? Going once, going twice.
Question in the chat we can answer really quick before we head out.
So Derek, that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what types of projects do you feel help? What types of projects do you feel helped you the most? What do recruiters value more on your resume, front end or back end?
Well, I can just start on that question. Personally, I don't think they have a preference, but it also kind of depends on like the position you're applying for, right? So if you're applying for a data role, which requires you handling data, of course you would have to have experience with that. I'm not entirely too sure if they value one more than the other, but I think they value just the experience in general, and because they want to see that you like computer science, right? That you're passionate about this and you're willing to learn. So what I think, I guess, helped me, like Genta mentioned, at a previous internship with like a local company, it was like for medicine, and I did some scripting there, and I feel like that helped me because it showed that like I was willing to step out of my comfort zone, and I and but yeah, and another thing that I had was I also was a TA, so I guess that might have like played a role in like them thinking like that I like teaching and things like that. So yeah, I'm not entirely too sure what they prefer, but that's in hindsight what I think benefited me to get the internship.
Yes. Anybody else want to go? If not, I think that is the last question. Okay, so for housekeeping again, just a reminder that next week we are going to have the Intro to Git and GitHub, so make sure that you sign up for that workshop. It's going to be super fun. If you don't know how to use Git and GitHub, yes, they are two different things. I didn't know that. So definitely, if you don't know that, what's the difference, join, even though if you know how to use both. So definitely join. I believe, Stephanie, I think you're teaching that workshop? Yes. So a GitHub employee is teaching GitHub, so definitely come. And also stay in touch with us to see when the data cleaning with Python and Pandas and data visualization with Python and Matplotlib is coming up. Those are going to be super fun, so definitely join. And also to get involved with us, join through dsc.community.dev so you can receive notifications on when we're doing workshops or any other things that we're doing. Definitely join or follow our social media. If you don't want to sign up for that, you can follow our social media. Our Instagram, we're most active, dsc UTRGV. That's basically for Instagram, Twitter, and I think LinkedIn, I'm not sure. And also join our Discord, definitely, what's it called? We post everything there. And I also want to thank all of our panelists. So thank you so much for showing up and giving everybody so much guidance. I know I wish that I would have attended an intern panel like this before I got an internship, because that was horrible. But so thank you so much for sharing all of y'all's experiences. I'm sure like this motivated everybody. And yeah, to everybody in the crowd, don't give up. You're gonna get an internship. I know that I struggled so much. Like I struggled really bad on getting an internship, and I was really sad, and I thought that I wasn't good enough until I got an internship, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe no other company got me. Like, I'm great. So definitely keep applying, don't give up. And if you don't get an internship, keep applying for the next semester. Just keep applying. You'll get something, I promise. You won't get an internship if you don't apply. Just know that. And I believe that's it. Thank you for everybody's time. I really appreciate you coming to this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
Thank you so much to the panelists for taking time to speak. We're really appreciative of that.
Yeah, thank you guys for hosting. I just wanted to mention, if you guys have any questions, don't feel free to reach out to me. So yeah, if something that wasn't answered or anything like that, just feel free.
Yeah, same. I'm always on Discord, or I'm always like constantly checking on LinkedIn to like check job postings. So if you ever have any questions, you could always reach out to me on Discord. I think my name on Discord is literally just Genta, with like a Pikachu with a Red Bull. So just if you have any questions, just feel free to PM me, and also on LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
Awesome. If you're interested in web dev and learning and interested in interning at IBM, let me know. Just reach out to me.
Awesome. Yeah, we're all super active on Discord and LinkedIn, so find us there.